And welcome to another exciting episode of the Fosung Elizabeth Cookye Show. I am the Mistress Secretary of Goddesses Incorporated, as we all know, and the ultimate anime mascot goddess covering all things women-orientated of the Bisoujo Senshi universe, women of fighting video games, and women of anime. I wanted to say thank you for being patient as the release of episode 6 to season 3 of my show is debuting. This month has been a very hectic month financially for me, and I've had to deal with a lot of things, but I've overcame them, which hints today's life lesson at the end of my anime and video game reviews. So I have plenty to talk about today, and if you can, leave some comments on this video. Let me know what you think. For all of you people that are back into old school anime, and for the new generation just beginning to discover old school anime from the late 80s, early 90s. Today I'm actually going to start a little bit out of order. I'm going to start with some video game reviews because there's some things I really want to get off my chest with my review. And for all of you out there in the fighting game universe, please do leave your comments. I want to know what you think. So I'm going to get started with my agenda. So first things first, it wasn't too long ago that I went to Evolution to compete in Mortal Kombat 9. I had beat Rayearth. I had got almost to semifinals, and then I had lost. But amongst the games that were there on review was King of Fighters 13, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition, Capcom, the new Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and then the other Tekken game, Tekken Tag Tournament 2. So my review is on Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online. I was really excited when I had seen it there at EVO, but then when it finally got released for PS3 and for Xbox 360 home system, I started playing it, and then I realized how much it was not like the arcade. Third Strike Online Edition plays like the Dreamcast release when Third Strike first came out. The parry timing is different. It's not like the arcade, and really throws you off. For those who have been playing the arcade for over 9 years, such as myself, we all know that Third Strike was the third incarnation of the Street Fighter 3 series when it was first released back in late 96, early 97, where it was new generation. Then a second incarnation was Second Impact. The last incarnation was known as Fight for the Future, Third Strike for short. It really enhanced the parries, the parry timing in Third Strike, as well as inventing the new red parry where you can block a certain amount of hits and then parry while you're in block stun. Unfortunately, what was supposed to happen with Third Strike Online Edition is that it was supposed to be a perfect arcade port with perfect online connectivity, just done in HD, bringing back this old game from '99 to now in 2011. What I did not accept and what I found hard really to integrate myself into was going back to the mentality, the mindset of playing Third Strike but for the Dreamcast all over again. As we all know, playing Third Strike for Dreamcast, totally different time on how you parry on that system, and then when you played in the arcade, had to remember the parry timing again. So doing that all over again has become a really hard to adjust, because playing in the gaming community now, once more, in the local community here in California, I'm still parrying according to the arcade setting, not to the Dreamcast setting, which totally makes Capcom seem like they're liars, and they reneged on the fact that Third Strike Online Edition was just updates to the graphics, the look. It was more crisper and would play just like the arcade. Unfortunately, it's not playing like the arcade. And I would like some reviews from those out there who's been playing Third Strike or Street Fighter 3 as long as I have, since 1996. Late in early 97. Let me know what you think about that. One good aspect about the Third Strike Online Edition is that it gives you these parry challenges. It's useless now because since you can't parry like the arcade, you got to parry like Dreamcast. You have to learn the shit all over again. One highlight of the advanced parry technique is that you have to parry Chun-Li's Hyokusen Super with Ken and perform the exact same combo from EVO 2004 when Justin Wong lost to Daigo with that chip damage. He tried to do the Chun-Li's chip damage, Super Hyokusen against Ken, and then Ken parried it, but then jumped up for the last hit for Chun-Li's perpendicular kick. parried that, came down with an overhead, and did a number of specials into a super cancel, and then that's how he won the tournament, and everybody went wild that year. I guess they won't ever let Justin Wong live that down as they, continue to play that over and over. And what better insult than to make that an actual parry challenge, So I guess that will be relived for all time. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think about that. My next video game review so far right now is on Kirby Mass Attack. I've played every single Kirby game ever since Kirby's Dream Land for the original black and white Game Boy. Kirby, for those who don't know, was an incarnation of the original Adventures of Lolo series, Iggerland in Japanese, of the pink powder puff ball, who is the only hope in Dreamland, or the only hope in Dreamland, who can save it from this crazy half turtle, half reptoid lizard named King DDD. Once I played it, I instantly fell in love because it was from the same creators who created The Adventures of Lolo. Look that up if anybody doesn't know what Lolo is. Kirby would span this entire franchise and become Hal's new mascot over time, just wiping Lolo out of the frame. Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2 for the black and white Game Boy. Dreamland 3 was created for Super Nintendo. Kirby 64, as well as a long number of other games. Crystal Shards was the rest of the name for 64. Kirby and Amazing Mirror. And now Kirby Mass Attack is a sequel to the previous Kirby game that was for the Nintendo DS. With this incarnation of the Kirby game, Mass Attack, he's allowed to duplicate himself into multiple forms and then swallow himself into one big giant Kirby and smash through items, break through walls, undiscover secrets, very similar to the reincarnation of the Super Mario game, Brothers game for Game Boy Advance, where now he is gigantic and he can run through objects. They did the same concept, but they pushed it over to Kirby. Because I don't have a DS right now, I most likely will get the emulated version for PSP. I've always will be a big Kirby fan and always will be hoping that Hal will make another game dedicated not only to Kirby but also to the original mascot, Lolo. Maybe they'll make a game one day in the future where both of them will be in the same game once more after Kirby's Dream Land 1. I have not had the chance to play Kirby Mass Attack, but I've had a chance to see the reviews of it, see it, and listen to the music. And of course, as usual, the Kirby's music has always been great. As of right now, I guess because I'm a Kirby fan, I want to give it an 8 out of a 10. I think they could have been a little bit more original. The whole swallowing yourself up and making yourself larger is just a Kirby way of doing something that was already done in Super Mario Brothers game for the Nintendo DS. Nothing really original there. Though he can still swallow enemies, he can copy their powers, and then as Kirby duplicates himself and becomes many Kirbys on screen, they're able to do the same thing, creating like an onslaught of attacks as he barricades himself through multi-platforms in this new adventure game. Tell me what y'all think about it, Kirby Mass Attack, which will be coming out pretty shortly. On that note, with news, King of Fighters 13 is stated to come out November of this year for PS3 and I believe also for Xbox 360. It's supposed to have some console characters that weren't in the arcade and some upgraded graphics and some upgraded fixes for the game. I'm hoping that they also upgraded my girl Vice. They took out her move Decide, and of course, I'm letting you know right now, I'm heavily upset they took out that move. All Vice has now is Sleeve, and so that's like, now what? This is like 96 all over again, but in HD. Also, I found out this morning that there's a new Mortal Kombat movie that's supposed to come out in 2013. The director Kevin T, who also did the Mortal Kombat Legacy series as of recent, which had over 20 million views, has been given the green light by New Line Cinema to go and release a new Mortal Kombat movie for 2013, and they're actually going to begin filming very shortly. They haven't talked about cast of characters or the storyline, but they hinted that I guess it's a rehash or rebirth of the original storyline. After Annihilation, that everyone was displeased with, even the creators of Mortal Kombat was very displeased with the release of Annihilation, that I guess they felt that with this new budget they will redo the storyline all over again. Now hopefully, from my point of view, if they do decide to do the storyline all over again, well, they understand that Shang Tsung was never killed, and the fact that he was old, he was very old, and he was defeated, and that then he kidnapped Sonya and Kano into Outworld, where he was supposed to lure the Earthrealm warriors into a tournament hosted by Shao Kahn himself. I don't know, it seems like when it comes down to comic books and video games made into movies, they seem to overlook the minor and minute details that makes the games what they were. These minute details are the reasons as to why sequels exist. You know, hopefully with this new budget they will follow it exactly. I give Kevin T my my support, my respect, and my congrats to his online Legacy series. There are a couple of things I would have changed with the Katana Melina story, as we all know, but overall I give him a 10 out of a 10 for really following the storyline as closely as he could as possible without becoming confused because of the robust, intricate storyline of MK. It's almost like Marvel, but English, in its own right. Not saying that Marvel's not English too, but, you know, the first deep fighting game, all-American, on that level, just about as Marvel and DC. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to get to my anime review now. I'm rediscovering an old 90s anime called Magic Knight Rayearth. I'm talking about the Season 2, Rayearth 2, which is dramatically different from the Clamp manga. For those who know, the end of Rayearth, or Magic Knight's Rayearth Season 1, ended where Hikaru, Fu, and the second Magic Knight, who controls water, can't think of her name at the moment, forgive me, had went up against Princess Emerald after defeating Zagato. They had to take her out because after Zagato was killed, she became evil, and by killing her, so-called the land of Sephiroth could be free. But Magic Knight Rayearth 2 continues after the fact that Princess Emerald was the pillar that upheld the peace and the stability of Sephiroth. Sephiroth is this planet that exists only through the will and the dreams of a pillar system, and whoever is in control of the pillar is in control of the stability of that planet. Once the pillar is gone, it is then the will of the people that this doom and darkness attacks this planet, and that without the pillar, no one will believe that they are guaranteed freedom, hope, love, happiness, so on, all that stuff that you see in a regular typical anime. So in this season, the pillar sister is gone, and there needs to be a new person chosen to uphold the pillar. And at the same time, the Magic Knights is summoned back for that reason, to go and find a new pillar system. Hikaru, who is the leader, who controls the Magic Knight known as Fire, is selected as the pillar, but not after going through a barricade of these ongoing problems that are happening at the same time for the planet. There are these warring planets known as Farin, Autozam, and Chizeta. Excuse me, I wanted to organize my thoughts for a minute. So let's go through this in more detail. Farin is ruled by this Chinese ruler named Lady Asuka, who wants the pillar system because she wants to, not only control Sephiroth, but also Farin. She's very immature in her ways of acting about how she wants to obtain new power, new land. And then you have Autozam, which is the planet of technology, who its leader at the time of his technological resources name is Eagle. And Eagle is close friends with Zagato's brother Lantis, where Lantis left Sephiroth because he was unhappy with the fact that he knew that his brother Zagato and the woman he was in love with, Princess Emerald, were doomed to die together because the pillar is forbidden to fall in love. So he leaves the planet to go to Autozam to find a new life and becomes very close with Eagle. But Eagle's planet is on the brink of destruction and on, annihilation, and so he feels that the only way for their planet to find happiness is to steal the pillar system. So Ego leaves Autozom to attack Sephiro to get the pillar system to save his own people. That's his justification for being noble. And then the last planet, known as Chizeta, is a planet of nothing but all females, and they all want to attack Sephiro for the pillar system so that they can expand the land from their planet, from which is extremely small. Chizeta is the planet from which Lafarga's girlfriend, can't think of her name right now, it slips me, is from. And so she knows that her own people is trying to attack Sephiro. So all this, while this is happening, Hikaru must also battle an alter ego known as Nova, you know, who she created herself by never really expressing her love, you know, for Lantis, who she's in love with. So there's all these conflicts going on, and while these conflicts are going on, primarily negative, there is this ominous presence that's taking very much advantage of these conflicts, and her name is Lady Debonair. And Debonair loves the fact that all these planets are warring over Sephiro, and that Princess Emerald is dead, and that the more of these uncertainties exist, and the more that this the negative energy persists, Lady Debonair can feed off of this and become stronger. And she's using Nova as a catalyst to destroy Hikaru from the inside out. I guess I gave everybody a huge spoiler there. And that's basically what Season 2 is about. So Hikaru must go and not only become one with her alter ego, to let her alter ego know that it's okay to express your love and feelings for a man, even though you may be rejected. Life still exists. And that also to understand that not only will she become the pillar system, but to also use the dreams and the wishes of this to rid that planet of that system so that it can belong to the people as a democracy. Check that out. Magic Knight Rayearth Season 2. Clamp also released a number of soundtracks, video games, memorabilia. It's so sad that this series has not received the respect that it should have, only because, you know, series like Sailor Moon at the time was just so popular, it overshadowed Kamikaze Kaito Jan, Cardcaptor Sakura, Magic Square, Magic Girl Do Re Mi, and then even, of course, Magic Knight Rayearth. I have the video game right here. This was the release for Sega Saturn, equipped with all of the voice acting. Music from the series, and covers everything. Unfortunately, the American release of Magic Knight Rayearth for Saturn cut all that out. As we know, when things get released in America, there's always this heavy editing of the product from Japan. So if you have a chance, you have a Japanese Saturn, or Saturn that can play multi-region games, check that out, Magic Knight Rayearth. Music is fairly easy to get still to this day. If you're looking for the older stuff, the first releases, you may want to check out mandurake.com, Akibado, which I believe is still around. Book Off, if you have one in your area. I know we have one here in LA. Also New York on 42nd Street. Magic Knight Rayearth Season 2. And moving on. On my headlines, Noir, the live action series released for 2012. Shout out to Devin Sewell. Thank you for that lead. I did read it. Noir was released back in 2001, but in Japan by Amniplex, but also released here in 2002 by ADV Films that acquired the license. Noir was about Mira Bouquet, an assassin for hire, who lives her life out as an assassin, but then one day gets tied up in a string of fate with a Japanese assassin named Kitika, who is responsible for killing her parents many, many years ago, but got brainwashed and doesn't know why. These two ladies have been selected by this female who has crowned herself the seat of the highest Italian mafia known as the Soldados, and Ultina is using them two, as well as a third mysterious woman known as Chloe, for a trial, bringing back an old age dogma of these female assassins to control this mafia group. with her as the helm as the seat. Noir is fairly deep, which goes into the undertakings of what a mafia story does not really talk about. The killings, the trials, the people involved, the people that are not involved, and the people that get string along that don't even know that they're pawns within a much bigger system being played out. They even went so far as to go to China to take out one of their assassins who is known for their undertakings within the Italian group. If I believe the DVD is also known as Death Warrant, and the episode is Xiao Li, or the lady who has fingernails with poison at the end. Y'all could go check that out in much more detail. However, back to the original concept, this anime release that was released in Japan in 2001, but in America in 2002, is now having a live-action release in 2012. Unfortunately, they're not following the original storyline, and instead of finding an Italian woman to play Mirio Bouquet and a Japanese girl to play Kirika, they found, I guess, the entire cast is just Caucasian. So, of course, we know when Caucasian people get their hands on Japanese shit, they just don't know how to follow the shit correctly. I'm not really going to go further much more into it. It is what it is. They took Noir and made it their own thing, and they didn't follow the storyline, and they're adding people that have nothing to do with the original manuscript. And when that happens, then basically, you know me, I'm going to give it a very shitty review, because now it has nothing to do with the original creators or their vision of their artwork or what they made. The end. Getting on to our life lesson. Today's life lesson of today is having the patience and the responsibility, I repeat, having the patience and the responsibility to deal with inconvenience. Having the patience and the strength to deal with inconvenience. So I'm going to get into what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you a small scenario. I have been dealing with my car insurance for quite some time. Upon my renewal, which usually, when you renew your car insurance, is usually 1 year after the date, on that same date that you started it. So I started paying a premium of $106 with my car insurance. A year later, the same time that I started it, it was time for renewal. Upon the renewal date, it's usually supposed to go further down when you have a good driving record. However, it went up to $143, and so I'm calling my agent asking, well, how come they did that? Turns out the company did not tell me that they went and got bought out by a different company. Horizontal integration happening all over again. And because of this, they raised my premium, because that's per their request. They also said that my license was suspended, which actually it was, but then at the same time it was not. So, having to go to court to prove that the court and the district attorney suspended my license wrongfully and they dismissed the whole case and they erased those records, I had to go and fax that information over to the people at the car insurance company so that they can go and remove that off my record and reduce my premium back to $106 and possibly the new premium that they promised me of $72. Here's where the inconvenience comes in. I spent over $22 in fax fees faxing all the proof, not only from the court system, but my personal knowledge and all of my receipts that I paid off the court and that I presented my proof to the court and that this is how I won my case and that it was dismissed. Lady said she didn't receive the fax. After I spent $22 in fax fees, she did not receive the fax. So, okay, I went back the next day, and I said, well, I want to fax you the receipt and the proof and just the main stuff, which came out to about $9.72. So I went and I refaxed the stuff. So this time she says she received it. She's processing it. 2 weeks go by, and I find out that my premium has not gone down yet to the $72 that was promised according to the agreement. She says, I lost the fax. So now I done sent the fax the first time, which cost me approximately $22-something. Then another 2 weeks later, I had to resend this shit again, and this time it cost me $9.72. And now 2 weeks later, not only did they not confirm that my premium went from $143 to $72, which is how it should have been, now she's telling me that she lost my paperwork. Now at this time, I really want to get ghetto. I really want to climb through the phone if I can and curse not only her out, but the people that hired her. Now, this is where the patience and the strength of responsibility of inconvenience comes in. Because now the patience part comes in because now I have to silence myself. I have to say a prayer to myself and say, okay, how can I fix this problem? Not only by contacting her manager, contacting her, and anyone else involved within that company, I had to now say, okay, I'm going to make sure I find a peaceful solution to this. I went and I faxed every single person there at the office that fax of the court order and the receipts that stated that the district attorney and the judge dismissed that they wrongfully suspended my license and that they can reduce my premium. Not only that, I had to go get confirmation faxes that stated that I faxed this. Now, that's the patience part. The responsibility part to this is, now, we live in a time where you must take responsibility for your own actions and possible the responsibility of other people now. If you do not take that extra step, there is no guarantee that the person on the other end will not take that extra step too. It's like making a phone call. You've made an agreement with somebody that you and that person is going to do X, Y, and Z. You've already did A, B, C, and now you're expecting that person to do X, Y, Z per the agreement. We now live in these times, which is more important to me than the economic disparity, that the time it takes for you to do something simple can take months at a time, because not only are you doing your part, you're doing the part of someone else, which is their job. You see, what I wish Obama would talk about is not the economic disparity of this country, but rather the inconvenience that make people go mad. It is stuff like this that make people want to shoot people with a gun. The time and the money and the resources, the little amount of resources that people have to go to do something, and then someone doesn't fulfill their end that they're paid to do, is what make people snap. Imagine spending your last $5 on car fare to go to a job interview, only to find out that when you get there, they said, we hired somebody already. What? After I already paid my last money to get to you, put on my suit and my tie, to put my best foot forward for this interview, only for you to tell me that you hired someone already? Why couldn't you take that 2 seconds to call me and say, don't come in, we've already found somebody, but if something else opens, we will call you? That $5 could have went towards a loaf of bread and some eggs. That $5 could have went towards car fare for another interview for someone else that was much more serious. This is the stuff that make people upset. This is the stuff that make people want to go mad. It's not the fact that nobody doesn't have self-esteem and nobody's not willing to work. It's people are tired of bullshit. It's bullshit like this that make people go off the wall. Forget not having money in your pocket and forget being in an economic disparity. It's when stuff like this happens, make people lose all hope, makes people lose their will, and makes people want to steal. Nobody really wants to steal from anybody. It's when this bullshit like this in everyday society is going on all the time. You know, telephone companies are raising your bill behind your back, adding extra surcharges and shit that you didn't even ask. You know, it's stuff like this that's happening right now as we speak on an everyday basis between companies and stuff being money hungry that cause people that want to go off. So I'm telling the world, we must now have the patience and the responsibility to go that extra mile, to fight what it is, these inconveniences that are plaguing us to move forward, not only with our own personal goals, you know, but just to have sanity in an everyday life. Have the patience and the responsibility to take it an extra step, not only for yourself, but sometimes for the inconsistencies and the irresponsibilities and the nitwits of the world. See, Cookie? Oh, shit, I can't even find my remote. Oh, God, shit.